Episode 19, The Maintenance Crisis. Katherine sat in the back of David Chen's sedan as they weaved through Saturday afternoon traffic toward Queens, her phone pressed to her ear for what felt like the 100th time that day. "Mr. Thompson, this is Katherine Morrison," she said, her voice hoarse from hours of calling. "I wanted to personally thank you for standing with us yesterday." Marcus Thompson, a cargo handler who'd worked the midnight shift for 6 years, sounded stunned. "Ms. Morrison, thank you. I didn't think. There were so many of us." 637, Katherine said, "and I'm calling every single one. You took a risk yesterday, Marcus. That matters." There was a pause. "My supervisor told me I was crazy, said standing up in that meeting would get me on some list. The only list you're on is the one of people who remind me why this job matters," Katherine said. She meant it. "How's your daughter?" "Sarah mentioned she just started kindergarten." You know about Emma?" "I'm learning," Katherine admitted. "I should have known years ago, but I'm learning now." When she hung up, David Chen glanced at her in the rearview mirror. "That's call 263, ma'am. You've been at this for 5 hours straight." 374 to go. Katherine rubbed her temples. Her voice was nearly gone, but she wasn't stopping. Each call revealed another story. Another person she'd failed to see when she was insulated in the executive suite. "How much longer to James's place?" 10 minutes. "But Ms. Morrison," David hesitated. "My wife Linda called during your last conversation. She wanted me to tell you something." Katherine leaned forward. Linda Chen worked customer service, one of the positions that bore the brunt of passenger anger when policies failed. "What is it?" "She said to tell you she's scared." David's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. "She's scared you're going to fix things just enough that people feel hopeful, and then the board will fire you anyway and it'll all go back to how it was. She said that would be worse than if you'd never tried at all." The words hit Katherine like a physical blow. "David." "I told her you wouldn't do that," David continued, his voice firm. "I told her I drove you yesterday morning, and I saw something different. Not the CEO who used to sit in back reading reports and never saying a word. Someone who actually gives a damn." He met her eyes in the mirror. "I told her you'd fight until they dragged you out of that building. Was I right?" Katherine felt her throat tighten. "You were right. Then you tell Linda that yourself when you see her Monday. She's working the early customer service shift." "I will," Katherine promised, making a mental note to have Sarah add Linda Chen to her schedule. "And David, thank you for believing when you didn't have to." They pulled up outside James Rivera's building in Jackson Heights. Katherine could see several familiar faces through the second-floor windows. The coalition was already gathering. She checked her watch. 12:47 p.m. The meeting had been moved up from 7 p.m. to 1 p.m. because of Raymond Chen's discovery, and she still didn't know the full details. Just James's terse message, "Emergency. Raymond found something bad. Very bad." Sarah had texted updates throughout the drive, stock holding at plus 2% despite Westfield's interview. 73 employees now requesting information about the independent reporting system. 2 more resignation letters withdrawn. Morgan Stanley analyst published positive note about cultural transformation. Westfield gave second interview to CNBC, will air Monday morning. Katherine climbed the stairs to James's apartment, her legs heavy with exhaustion. She'd been running on adrenaline and 3 hours of sleep for 48 hours straight. But Raymond's message had been clear. This couldn't wait. James opened the door before she could knock. His expression was grim. "Katherine, come in." The apartment was more crowded than last night. Besides the core coalition members, James, Diana Reeves, Thomas Okonkwo, Elena Vasquez, Angela Martinez, Marcus Thompson, there were 5 others Katherine didn't immediately recognize. Raymond Chen stood by the dining table, which was covered in printouts and laptop screens showing what looked like maintenance logs. "Raymond," Katherine said, crossing to him. "What did you find?" The pilot looked like he hadn't slept. His eyes were bloodshot, his usually neat uniform shirt wrinkled. "I should have looked years ago," he said quietly. "I should have. But I trusted the system. I trusted that someone was paying attention." "Raymond?" Diana Reeves put a hand on his shoulder. "Show her." Raymond pulled up a spreadsheet on his laptop. "After yesterday's meeting, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what you said, about how complaints disappeared into Pemberton's system. So I started wondering, what else disappeared? He clicked to another tab. Maintenance write-ups. Every time a pilot or mechanic reports an issue, it goes into the system. FAA requires we track everything, fix critical items before next flight, and address non-critical items within specified timeframes. I know the regulations, Katherine said, though her stomach was already sinking. Right, so I pulled the last 3 years of maintenance logs for our 737 fleet, all 87 aircraft. Raymond's hands shook slightly as he navigated through screens. And I found a pattern. He pulled up a graph. See this? These are write-ups filed by pilots and mechanics. This line shows items marked as deferred maintenance, non-critical issues that can be fixed at the next scheduled service. The graph showed 2 lines diverging sharply starting about 18 months ago. Write-ups steadily increased while deferred maintenance items mysteriously decreased. That should be impossible, Katherine said slowly. If write-ups go up, deferred items should also go up unless we increased maintenance capacity. We didn't, Raymond said flatly. I checked. We actually reduced maintenance staff by 11% during that period. Pemberton's cost-cutting. Then where did the write-ups go? Raymond clicked to another screen. They were reclassified, moved from deferred maintenance to a category called monitoring status, which sounds official, but it's not an FAA category. It's something someone created internally. Katherine felt ice forming in her chest. How many items? 473 write-ups across 42 aircraft. Raymond's voice was hollow. Some of them are minor, worn seat cushions, scratched windows. But Katherine, some of them aren't minor at all. He pulled up a specific log entry. This is from aircraft 737N2847. 6 weeks ago, the captain reported intermittent hydraulic pressure fluctuations in the backup system. Not enough to ground the plane. The primary system was fine, but something that should have been investigated and fixed. What happened? Reclassified to monitoring status. No repair scheduled. The plane's been flying daily routes ever since. Raymond pulled up another entry. This one, N2891, has had 3 separate pilots report unusual vibrations during takeoff over the last month. Also monitoring status. He kept clicking through entries, each one worse than the last. Cargo door indicators that occasionally showed open when they weren't. Navigation systems with intermittent GPS drift. Engine oil consumption rates slightly above normal parameters. Jesus Christ, Katherine breathed. Raymond, if these issues compound, I know. He looked at her directly. I've been flying for 15 years, Katherine. I've never seen anything like this. Either someone didn't understand the risks they were taking, or they understood perfectly and decided quarterly maintenance costs were more important than safety margins. Thomas Okonkwo spoke from across the room, his deep voice tight with anger. My daughter flies on these planes. My wife. Every day I watch passengers board aircraft I'm supposed to be protecting, and now you're telling me half our fleet might be... Not half, Raymond interrupted. 42 aircraft out of 87. But Thomas is right. Every one of these planes is carrying passengers who trust us with their lives. Katherine's mind was racing through implications. Who authorized the reclassification system? That's what I spent the last 4 hours trying to find out. James Rivera held up his own laptop. I pulled email archives. The monitoring status category was created 17 months ago by Marcus Westfield. The room went silent. Westfield? Katherine repeated. The board member? He was acting as interim operations oversight during the CFO transition when Pemberton was promoted, James said. He sent a memo to the maintenance department head suggesting they needed a more nuanced approach to categorizing non-critical items to avoid unnecessary service disruptions and costs. Elena Vasquez, the gate agent, spoke up. I remember that period. We had planes going out of service for maintenance constantly. Westfield kept asking why we couldn't keep more aircraft in rotation. So he created a category that made problems disappear on paper, Diana said, her voice disgusted. Just like Pemberton made complaints disappear. Katherine felt the full weight of what she was hearing. This wasn't just buried complaints or hidden settlements. This was safety. This was the one thing airlines could never compromise on. Raymond, in your professional judgment as a captain, How serious is this? Raymond met her eyes. If the FAA finds out we've been flying aircraft with documented issues that weren't properly addressed, they'll ground our entire fleet pending investigation. We're talking about potential certificate action against the airline, criminal charges if they determine we knowingly violated safety regulations. And if we don't report it, then we're gambling that none of these deferred issues will cascade into something catastrophic. Raymond's jaw was tight. And as a pilot, as someone who flies these aircraft and trusts my crew and passengers to the maintenance system, I can't make that gamble. Katherine looked around the room. Every face showed the same grim understanding. This was the crisis that could destroy everything. Not just her reforms, not just her job, but the entire airline. We have to ground the affected aircraft, she said quietly. Immediately, and we have to report this to the FAA. That'll crater the stock, Angela Martinez said. 42 planes out of service? We'll have to cancel hundreds of flights. Thousands, Alina corrected. Summer travel season. We're already running near capacity. I don't care, Katherine said, her voice harder now. We're not gambling with people's lives. Not for stock prices, not for quarterly earnings, not for anything. James was watching her carefully. Westfield will use this against you. He'll say you're overreacting, that these are routine maintenance items being blown out of proportion. He'll argue you're destroying shareholder value out of panic. Let him, Katherine said. I'll take that fight. What I won't do is wait for one of these planes to have a real emergency because we ignored warning signs. Thomas Okonkwo stood up. Then we need to move fast. If Westfield created this system, he knows it exists. Once he realizes we've found it, he'll try to spin it or bury it deeper. Or claim he didn't understand the implications, Diana added. Say he was trying to improve efficiency and maintenance staff misinterpreted his guidance. Katherine pulled out her phone. Sarah, I need you to do 3 things immediately. First, get me the FAA's emergency reporting hotline. Second, schedule an emergency board call for 4 p.m. today. Third, find me the name and direct number for every aviation safety attorney in New York. Sarah's response came back in seconds. Already pulling the information. Katherine, what's happening? We found something worse than Pemberton, Katherine said. Much worse. I'll brief you in 20 minutes. She turned back to Raymond. I need you to identify which of these 42 aircraft have the most serious issues. We'll ground those first, tonight if possible. The others get immediate inspections scheduled. I'll need access to the full maintenance database, Raymond said. You'll have it. Katherine looked at James. Can you get me a list of every maintenance supervisor who might have been pressured to use this monitoring status system? We need to know who knew what. On it. Elena, I need you to start working with scheduling to figure out how we reroute passengers from canceled flights. This is going to be chaos, but we need to minimize the impact on travelers. Elena nodded, already pulling out her tablet. Katherine took a breath, feeling the full weight of what she was about to do. This would be worse than the Times article. Worse than Pemberton's suspension. This was admitting that under her leadership, the airline had compromised safety, that the board member trying to remove her had created a system that put passengers at risk. But it was also the right thing to do. The only thing to do. One more thing, she said to the room. When this breaks, and it will break, the media is going to ask why a CEO who's been in charge for 3 years didn't know about this. They're going to question my competence, my judgment, everything. And they'll be right to ask those questions. She looked at each coalition member in turn. I'm asking you not to defend me. Don't say I couldn't have known, because I should have known. I should have been looking at maintenance logs, not just financial reports. I should have been talking to pilots and mechanics, not just board members. Katherine, James started. No, she interrupted. I want you to tell the truth. Tell them I failed. Tell them the whole system failed. Because that's what happened. But also tell them we're fixing it now. That we're grounding planes and reporting to the FAA because that's what responsible airlines do when they find problems. Diana Reeves spoke up, her voice thoughtful. You know, Westfield will say you're using this to distract from your other failures, that you're manufacturing a crisis to look like a hero. Then we'll show him the maintenance logs, Raymond said firmly. These issues are documented. They're real. And every pilot in our fleet will back me up that this is serious. Katherine's phone buzzed. Sarah? FAA hotline, 1-866-TEL-FAA. Emergency board call scheduled for 4 p.m. Patricia Hughes called. She heard about the meeting and wants to talk before the board call. Also, Westfield's office just released a statement to Bloomberg saying you're making increasingly erratic decisions under pressure. He's laying groundwork. Katherine showed the message to James. He knows we found something. Or he's guessing, James said. Either way, we need to move before he can get ahead of this. Katherine nodded. Raymond, send me everything you have. Every log, every reclassified item, every piece of documentation. I'm calling the FAA in 1 hour. You're sure? Raymond asked quietly. Once you make that call, there's no walking it back. The investigation will be public. The groundings will be public. This will be the story for weeks. I'm sure, Katherine said. I went undercover in my own airline because I wanted to know the truth. Well, this is the truth. And we don't get to pick which truths are convenient. She stood, her exhaustion temporarily forgotten in the face of this new crisis. I need to get back to headquarters. Raymond, I want you and 2 other pilots you trust to come with me. We're going to brief the full executive team, and I want them to hear directly from the people who fly these planes. I'll come, Diana Reeves said immediately. 13 years, perfect safety record. If I say this is serious, they'll listen. I'll find a 3rd pilot, Raymond said. Captain Morrison. She's been with the airline 20 years, flew for the Air Force before that. If anyone questions our assessment, she'll shut them down. As Katherine headed for the door, Thomas Okonkwo caught her arm. Ms. Morrison, my daughter asked my wife this morning if the CEO lady was going to make it so Daddy doesn't come home angry anymore. Katherine met his eyes. I'm trying, Thomas. I know you are, he said, and I believe you. But this is bigger than meal allowances and crew rest. This is about whether we're the kind of company that tells the truth even when it costs us. We are, Katherine said firmly. Or we will be, starting now. In the car back to Manhattan, Katherine made the first call to Patricia Hughes. Patricia, we have a situation, she said without preamble. A serious one. I need you to hear this before the board call. She laid out everything Raymond had found, speaking quickly and precisely. Patricia was silent for a long moment after she finished. Katherine, she finally said, her voice tight. Do you understand what you're about to do? The FAA investigation alone will take months. The stock will crash. We'll be defending lawsuits for years, and Westfield will argue you're overreacting, that these are standard maintenance deferrals being sensationalized. They're not standard, Katherine said. Raymond's been flying for 15 years. He says this is unprecedented. And Westfield will find pilots who say otherwise, Patricia countered. He'll get experts to testify that you panicked, that you grounded planes unnecessarily, that you cost the company hundreds of millions in a misguided attempt to save your job. Maybe, Katherine acknowledged. But Patricia, what happens if I don't ground these planes and one of them has an emergency? What happens if we knew there were issues and we kept flying anyway? Patricia sighed. Then we'd deserve everything we got. But Katherine, you need to understand the board position. Jennifer Walsh just flipped to support you yesterday. Christine Blackwood is neutral. This could push them both back to Westfield's side. Then I'll lose my job, Katherine said simply. But those planes will be on the ground, and passengers will be safe. That's the trade I'm making. You're sure? Because once you call the FAA, this becomes public record. There's no containing it. I'm sure, Katherine said. Patricia, I spent 3 days undercover watching employees and passengers being treated like they didn't matter. I'm not going to turn around and treat their safety the same way. I can't. Another pause. Then Patricia's voice came back, stronger. All right, then here's what we do. You call the FAA first before the board meeting. Make it a fait accompli. Then at the board call, you present it as a safety decision, not a political one. You show them the logs. You have Raymond and Diana present their assessment, and you make it clear this is about regulatory compliance and passenger safety, period. Westfield will still argue I'm overreacting. Let him, Patricia said. But he'll be arguing against FAA regulations and pilot safety assessments. That's a much harder position to defend than arguing against your judgment. Katherine felt a surge of gratitude. Thank you, Patricia. Don't thank me yet, Patricia said dryly. We still have to survive the board call. And Katherine, Westfield's statement to Bloomberg wasn't random. He knows something's coming. Be prepared for him to have his own narrative ready. They pulled up to Skyward headquarters at 1:43 p.m. Sarah was waiting in the lobby with Raymond Chen, Diana Reeves, and a tall woman in her 50s wearing a captain's uniform. Captain Jessica Morrison, the woman said, extending her hand. No relation, I assume? Not unless you have relatives in Chicago, Katherine said, shaking her hand. Thank you for coming on short notice. Raymond showed me the logs, Captain Morrison said bluntly. If half of what he found is accurate, we should have grounded these planes weeks ago. I'm here to make sure that happens. Sarah handed Katherine a folder. FAA contact information, legal briefings on voluntary safety reporting, and a summary of what to expect during an investigation. Also, the Wall Street Journal just posted Westfield's full interview online. It's not good. Katherine scanned the article on Sarah's tablet as they rode the elevator up. Westfield had been systematic and devastating. Ms. Morrison's recent decisions raised serious questions about her judgment under pressure. The suspension of our CFO without completing due process, the public spectacle of yesterday's employee meeting, and her apparent willingness to make costly commitments without board approval all suggest someone who's lost perspective. The board has a fiduciary duty to shareholders, and we take that responsibility seriously. The reporter had pressed him on the employee support Katherine received. Westfield's response was calculated. I respect our employees tremendously, but a standing ovation doesn't change financial reality. Ms. Morrison has committed to spending increases that will cost tens of millions in a highly competitive market. If those decisions damage our ability to compete, it's our employees who will suffer most through layoffs and service cuts. Sometimes the responsible thing is to say no, even when saying yes would be popular. Katherine handed the tablet back to Sarah. He's good. He's a bastard, Sarah said flatly. But yes, he's good at it. In Katherine's office, she gathered the three pilots around her desk. I'm calling the FAA in 10 minutes. Before I do, I need to ask, is there any scenario where these maintenance issues are less serious than they appear? Any chance Westfield is right that we're overreacting? Raymond, Diana, and Captain Morrison exchanged looks. Finally, Captain Morrison spoke. Miss Morrison, I've been flying since 1988. I was a fighter pilot in Desert Storm. I've seen what happens when people cut corners on maintenance because it's expensive or inconvenient. Her voice was hard. These logs show a pattern of deferring safety-related items to save money. That's not overreacting. That's basic airmanship. The FAA will ground the planes anyway once they investigate, Raymond added. We're just doing it proactively instead of waiting for them to force us. Katherine nodded. Then let's do this right. She picked up her phone and dialed the FAA hotline. A calm voice answered. FAA Safety Hotline. How can I help you? This is Katherine Morrison, CEO of Skyward Airlines, Katherine said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. I'm calling to report potential safety violations in our maintenance procedures. We've discovered that aircraft with documented maintenance issues have been improperly categorized and may have been flying without proper safety protocols. There was a brief pause. Ms. Morrison, I'm going to connect you with our Air Carrier Operations Division. Please stay on the line. Katherine put the phone on speaker so the pilots could hear. Within 30 seconds, a new voice came on. This is Deputy Director Marcus Webb with Air Carrier Operations. Miss Morrison, can you describe the nature of the violations you're reporting? Katherine laid it out clearly and completely. The reclassified maintenance items, the monitoring status category, the number of affected aircraft. She didn't mention Westfield's name yet. That would come during the formal investigation. But she made it clear this was systemic, not isolated incidents. Deputy Director Webb's questions were precise and thorough. How long had the practice been occurring? Who authorized it? Were any of the affected aircraft currently in service? Did Katherine have documentation? I'm sending you 3 years of maintenance logs right now, Katherine said, nodding to Sarah, who was already uploading files. And I have 3 of our most experienced captains here who can walk you through their assessment of the safety implications. For the next 40 minutes, Raymond, Diana, and Captain Morrison briefed the FAA on what they'd found. Deputy Director Webb asked technical questions about hydraulic systems, navigation accuracy, and maintenance protocols. The pilots answered with the precision of professionals who knew exactly what they were talking about. Finally, Webb said, "Ms. Morrison, based on what you've described, I'm opening a formal investigation effective immediately. I'll need you to ground all affected aircraft until our inspectors can examine them. We'll have a team at your maintenance facilities within 6 hours." "Understood," Katherine said. "We'll begin grounding procedures within the hour." "Ms. Morrison," Webb added, his tone slightly different, "I want you to know that voluntary reporting like this is exactly what the FAA's safety culture is designed to encourage. Airlines that identify and report problems proactively are the ones that maintain the safest operations." "Thank you, Deputy Director," Katherine said. "We'll cooperate fully with your investigation." When she hung up, the office was silent for a moment. Then Captain Morrison said quietly, "You just saved lives, Miss Morrison. You may not know whose lives or when, but you saved them." Katherine felt the weight of that settle over her. "Now I have to convince the board I didn't destroy the company in the process." Sarah was already at her laptop. "The FAA filing is public record. Media will have it within an hour. I'm drafting a company statement emphasizing safety culture and voluntary compliance." "Make it clear this was my decision," Katherine said. "Not the board's, not the pilot's, mine. If this goes wrong, it's on me." "It won't go wrong," Raymond said firmly, "because it's the right thing to do." Katherine's phone buzzed with a call from Patricia Hughes. "Katherine, I just got a call from Christine Blackwood. Someone leaked to her that you're about to ground 40 planes. She's asking if you've lost your mind." "Tell her to be on the board call at 4 p.m., Katherine said. "She'll get the full briefing then." "She wants to talk now. So does Jennifer Walsh." "Katherine, they're panicking." "They can panic on the call," Katherine said, more harshly than she intended. "I just reported safety violations to the FAA. That's not negotiable, and it's not up for board debate. They can fire me for it, but the planes are staying grounded." Patricia was quiet for a moment. "You're sure about this?" "I'm sure," Katherine said. "Patricia, I made promises to 637 employees yesterday. One of them was that I wouldn't let this company compromise on safety for profit. This is me keeping that promise." "All right," Patricia said. "Then I'll back you. But Katherine, this is going to be the fight of your life. Westfield will come at you with everything he has." "Let him come," Katherine said. "I'm not backing down. Not on this." She hung up and looked at the 3 pilots. "Thank you, all of you. I know this puts you in a difficult position with the company." "No," Diana Reeves said firmly. "This puts us in the right position, finally." As the pilots left to begin coordinating the groundings with maintenance, Sarah approached Katherine's desk. "The media requests are already starting. Wall Street Journal, Times, Bloomberg, CNBC, they all want statements." "Tell them we'll have a full briefing after the board meeting," Katherine said. "And Sarah, thank you. For everything. I know this isn't what you signed up for." Sarah smiled slightly. "Actually, it's exactly what I signed up for. I wanted to work for someone who gave a damn. Turns out, I got my wish." Katherine's computer dinged with an email from Marcus Westfield, sent to the full board. "In light of Miss Morrison's latest decision to ground 48% of our operational fleet without board consultation, I am requesting an emergency meeting to discuss immediate leadership transition. This reckless action will cost the company hundreds of millions and demonstrates a complete absence of judgment." Katherine read it twice, then forwarded it to Patricia with a simple note. "Let him talk. The planes stay grounded." She had 2 hours until the board call. 2 hours to prepare for the fight that would likely end her career. But as she looked at the maintenance logs still displayed on her screen, at the list of aircraft that would be grounded tonight, she felt something unexpected. Peace. This was right. This was what leadership actually meant. Not protecting her position or managing board politics or maximizing shareholder value. It meant making the hard call when people's lives were at stake, even if it cost her everything. She picked up her phone and went back to calling employees. Because whatever happened in the next 2 hours, she'd made promises to 637 people. And Katherine Morrison kept her promises now. starting with the promise that at Skyward Airlines, safety would never again be negotiable.
Thanks for watching our stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more epic adventures. Thanks for watching our stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more epic adventures.